U.S. aircraft carriers are massive cities at sea, designed for war, built for endurance, and packed with secrets. Deep inside these giant ships, below the roaring jets and chaotic flight deck, lies a hidden network of narrow passageways. These so-called underground tunnels are not just for convenience, they're essential for survival, operations, and security. Unlike the open spaces on the upper decks, these lower corridors connect vital areas like the engine rooms, ammunition storage, command centers, and living quarters. They allow sailors to move quickly without interfering with flight operations above. In the event of an attack, these passageways provide protected routes, keeping essential crew members safe while maintaining control of the ship. Why are these tunnels designed this way? How do they help in combat situations? And what other features do these floating cities have? To understand their importance, let's step inside and take a closer look at the incredible world beneath the deck of a U.S. aircraft carrier. But first, we're on a mission to reach 100,000 subscribers and bring more Navy stories to light. Would you like to subscribe and join the journey? Click the button at the bottom right. Thanks, and let's move on. Step inside a U.S. aircraft carrier, and you'll find yourself in a world of controlled chaos. The flight deck is a battlefield of roaring jet engines, crew members rushing to launch and recover aircraft, and a non-stop rhythm of operations. But beneath all this, hidden away from the deafening noise and the open ocean, lies a different kind of battlefield, one made up of narrow passageways, steel bulkheads, and a network of corridors that keep the entire ship running. These so-called underground tunnels aren't tunnels in the traditional sense. There's no dirt, no concrete, and certainly no underground space beneath the ocean. Instead, they're an intricate labyrinth of steel-lined passageways that weave through the lower decks of the carrier. Some are just wide enough for one person to pass through, while others stretch long and straight, resembling hallways in a high-security facility. They connect nearly every part of the ship, from the powerful nuclear reactors in the engine rooms to the highly classified command centers and weapons storage areas. These passageways aren't just about getting from point A to point B. Every inch of a U.S. aircraft carrier is designed with precision, and these corridors serve a purpose far greater than simple convenience. They allow sailors to move without interfering with flight operations, protect essential systems from enemy attack, and ensure that every part of the ship remains functional, even in the worst conditions. Navigating the interior of a carrier is like walking through a metal maze. Long hallways stretch endlessly in both directions, lined with sealed doors, each leading to a different section of the ship. Some of these doors are marked with symbols and numbers, codes that only trained personnel fully understand. The ship's structure is divided into multiple decks, with ladders and narrow stairwells connecting each level. Unlike the spacious areas on the flight deck or the hangar bay, these corridors are built for efficiency, not comfort. For the crew, these passageways are the lifeline of the ship. Every movement is calculated. Weapons are transported under tight security through specific routes, avoiding areas where the general crew operates. Engineers make their way to the reactors using designated pathways, ensuring that the nuclear heart of the ship remains protected. Even the ship's food supply follows an organized system, with storage areas deep below deck feeding into kitchens that serve thousands of meals every day. During emergencies, these corridors become even more crucial. If a fire breaks out or the ship takes damage in battle, the passageways allow sailors to quickly seal off sections, preventing further destruction. They're also designed with safety features such as blast doors and fireproof barriers, ensuring that no single attack can cripple the entire vessel. Despite its massive size, an aircraft carrier operates like a precision machine. Every second matters, and these passageways help keep everything running smoothly. Imagine a combat situation where a fighter jet is about to take off, but a last-minute weapons adjustment is needed. Instead of running across the busy flight deck, crew members can use the internal tunnels to reach the armory, retrieve the necessary equipment, and return without disrupting operations. Security is another reason these passageways exist. Not everyone on board has clearance to access certain areas. The carrier is home to highly classified technology, from advanced radar systems to nuclear propulsion, and these internal corridors help regulate who can go where. Some doors require keycards, others need specific codes, and in some cases, armed guards control access. Even something as simple as moving from one sleeping area to another is structured. The enlisted sailors, officers, and high-ranking commanders all have designated living quarters, often separated by these passageways. The higher you go in rank, the more private your space becomes, but the only way to get there is through these secured and controlled corridors. Walking through these passageways can feel like stepping into a different world. While the flight deck is loud, chaotic, and filled with action, the lower decks are eerily quiet. The only sounds are the occasional hum of machinery, footsteps echoing off metal walls, and muffled vibrations of the ship cutting through the waves. It's easy to get lost in this maze, especially for new crew members who haven't memorized the complex layout. But despite the tight spaces and endless corridors, every sailor knows their role. They understand the importance of these passageways, not just for day-to-day operations, but for the survival of the entire ship. In combat, these tunnels allow the ship to function even if sections are damaged. If an explosion erupts on one side of the carrier, the crew can still navigate through alternate routes, maintaining control and ensuring the ship remains battle-ready. The design of these passageways hasn't changed much over the years, but with advancements in naval technology, will future aircraft carriers have an even more complex internal structure? Will new security measures and automation change the way sailors move through the ship? So how does someone actually get around inside a warship this massive? With over 5,000 people on board and endless corridors leading to different compartments, navigation isn't as simple as walking down a hallway. Every part of the ship is carefully sectioned, with specific routes designed for different purposes. Some passageways are open for general movement, while others are restricted to specific personnel. Aircraft carriers are built to maximize space, meaning that every corridor, ladder, and hatch serves a function. Unlike a regular building where you can take an elevator or a simple stairwell to another floor, moving through an aircraft carrier often means climbing narrow ladders, ducking through bulkhead doors, and squeezing through tight spaces. The ship itself is divided into decks and compartments, and movement is controlled through a strict system. Enlisted crew passageways. Most of the crew's sleeping quarters, dining areas, and recreation spaces are connected by main hallways that allow easy access between essential areas. Engineering and reactor access. One of the most restricted areas, only authorized personnel can navigate these passageways, which lead to the ship's nuclear reactors and engine control rooms. And then, of course, there's weapons transport routes. These secured tunnels allow bombs, missiles, and ammunition to be moved discreetly and safely without being exposed on the flight deck. Unlike a regular city or building, movement inside an aircraft carrier is highly controlled, and for good reason. In combat situations or emergency drills, sailors must be able to navigate through these passageways without hesitation. Firefighting teams need clear access routes. Damage control crews must be able to seal off affected areas, and medical teams have to transport injured personnel through the quickest possible path. But it's not just about emergencies. Everyday movement on a carrier is just as important. Thousands of people have to travel to and from their workstations, meal breaks, sleeping quarters, and briefings, all without causing congestion or interfering with flight operations. That's why these passageways have specific rules. One-way traffic in certain areas. Some corridors are designated for movement in only one direction to prevent crowding. Priority for operational teams. Personnel involved in critical missions, such as engineers, flight deck crew, or weapons handlers, have priority over general crew movement. And silent running in secure zones. Some areas require absolute silence, especially in intelligence or command sections, where classified operations take place. Everything is designed for efficiency, ensuring that the carrier operates like a well-oiled machine. But there's another layer to this system, one that's not just about movement, but about survival. In a combat situation, every second matters. If a missile strikes the carrier or a fire breaks out, these passageways become lifelines. Fireproof doors can be sealed instantly. Watertight compartments can be locked down, and specialized escape routes allow sailors to evacuate safely. While today's carriers are built with efficiency in mind, naval technology is constantly evolving. Will future aircraft carriers change the way sailors navigate these floating cities? Could automation and AI revolutionize how people move through these passageways? From launching fighter jets to maintaining nuclear reactors, these passageways ensure that thousands of people on board can do their jobs without interference. But how do they improve day-to-day operations? The flight deck of an aircraft carrier is obviously one of the most dangerous workplaces in the world. Fighter jets launching and landing within seconds of each other, helicopters are taking off, and ground crews are constantly in motion. With so much activity happening in a small space, there's no room for unnecessary movement. That's where these passageways come in. Instead of having sailors constantly crossing the flight deck to get from one section of the ship to the other, these underground corridors, if you want to call them that, allow movement below the action. Crews responsible for arming the aircraft, refueling, or repairing equipment can safely travel through designated paths without interfering with launch operations. In a combat situation, this separation becomes even more important. If an emergency occurs on the flight deck, like an explosion, a fire, or aircraft malfunction, personnel can quickly evacuate to safety without disrupting ongoing missions. One of the most vital functions on these passageways is transporting weapons. Modern aircraft carriers carry a massive arsenal of bombs, missiles, and ammunition that must be moved efficiently and securely. These munitions storage areas, known as magazines, are deep below the decks for safety. If an explosion were to occur, having these areas buried within layers of steel helps prevent catastrophic damage. But when aircraft need to be armed, those weapons have to reach the flight deck quickly. Instead of hauling missiles and bombs up stairwells or across open spaces, these passageways lead directly to specialized elevators that transport weapons safely to the hangar bay or the flight deck. This system ensures that aircraft can be loaded and launched with minimal delay, keeping the ship's combat readiness at its peak. Aircraft carriers are also built to withstand attacks, but no warship is invincible. These passageways allow damage control teams to respond instantly. Firefighting crews can access affected areas through designated emergency routes, while medical teams can quickly reach injured personnel. If a section of the ship is compromised, watertight doors can be sealed off to prevent flooding or fire from spreading. During battle simulations, crews train rigorously to navigate these passageways in low visibility conditions, often in complete darkness or filled with smoke. Knowing the ship's layout isn't just a convenience, it can mean the difference between survival and catastrophe. Beyond combat emergencies, these passageways also make everyday life on an aircraft carrier more manageable. With over 5,000 people on board, the ship has to function like a well-organized city, and these corridors help ensure that supplies, food, and personnel move efficiently. Like food distribution, the large storage areas deep in the ship hold enough supplies to feed the entire crew for months. These passageways connect storage areas to the mess halls, ensuring for a constant flow of ingredients. Medical access corridors. The ship's medical bay is positioned strategically so that injured personnel can be transported quickly, whether from the flight deck, the engine room, or living quarters. Maintenance and repair corridors. Whether it's fixing a jet engine or repairing ship systems, these corridors allow engineers and mechanics to reach critical areas without delay. From combat efficiency to daily life, these passageways are essential to keeping an aircraft carrier operational. Injuries are inevitable on an aircraft carrier, whether from combat, accidents, or routine operations. With over 5,000 people on board, the ship needs a way to transport the wounded quickly and safely to medical facilities. These passageways provide direct, unobstructed routes to the ship's hospital bay, allowing medics to respond to emergencies in record time. Special priority routes ensure that injured personnel can be moved without getting caught in general foot traffic. Beyond the tunnels and the operations rooms, an aircraft carrier is a floating city with its own unique rhythm, culture, and daily challenges. So what is life really like aboard a carrier? From sleeping quarters to food, recreation, and daily routines, let's take a look at how sailors live beyond the hidden passageways. Now, there's no luxury living on an aircraft carrier. Space is extremely limited, and the crew must make do with what they have. Most enlisted sailors sleep in berthing areas, rooms packed with up to 100 people, filled with stacked bunks known as racks. Privacy is almost non-existent. The only way to block out the world is to pull a small curtain across the bunk, giving sailors a moment of isolation in an otherwise crowded environment. With over 5,000 people on board, feeding the crew is a massive operation. The ship's galleys, or the kitchens, prepare more than 18,000 meals a day, serving everything from simple breakfast foods to full-course dinners. The food isn't restaurant quality, but it's designed to be filling, nutritious, and easy to prepare in bulk. There are multiple mess halls on the ship, separated by rank. Enlisted sailors eat in large cafeteria-style dining areas, while officers have separate wardrooms. The highest-ranking officials, including the captain, have their own private dining area. Life on an aircraft carrier follows a strict routine. Most sailors work in 12-hour shifts, meaning the ship is always operating 24/7. Whether they're fixing the aircraft, operating radar systems, or running the ship's engines, every crew member has a specific role. But in between the long shifts, sailors do find time to unwind. The ship has a few small recreation areas, including a gym with basic workout equipment. Staying fit is important, so sailors have access to treadmills, weights, and even makeshift basketball courts in the hangar bay. Then there's movie nights in the game rooms. These are common area rooms where sailors can watch movies, play video games, or even compete in card tournaments. Some aircraft carriers even have barber shops, small convenience stores, and coffee shops, including, on some ships, a real Starbucks. While there are ways to pass the time, life on a carrier is still tough. Days are long and personal space is limited. Constant noise from aircraft engines and alarms, making sleeping difficult, and being away from home for months at a time takes its toll. For many sailors, the best part of life on a carrier is the sense of camaraderie. Everyone on board is part of a team, and friendships form quickly in such high-pressure environments. Still, after months at sea, nothing beats the feeling of seeing land again. But as technology evolves, will future aircraft carriers change how sailors live and work? Could automation and new designs make life at sea more comfortable? The aircraft carriers of today are engineering marvels, but the carriers of the future will take naval power to a whole new level. As technology advances, these massive warships are being redesigned to be smarter, more efficient, and even more self-sufficient. Everything from how they launch the aircraft to how sailors live on board is set to change. Life on a carrier may never be luxurious, but the next generation of ships could make deployments a little bit more bearable. Then there's the issue of survival. Aircraft carriers are powerful, but they're also targets. Future designs will need to be stealthier, harder to detect, and nearly impossible to destroy. And as weapons technology advances, carriers could be equipped with powerful laser defense systems, capable of shooting down incoming missiles before they even get close. But the biggest question is whether the aircraft carrier as we know it will even exist in the future. Some experts believe that smaller, more versatile warships will replace the traditional supercarrier. Instead of one massive ship carrying dozens of jets, future fleets might consist of multiple smaller carriers, each launching swarms of drones and robotic submarines. The era of giant floating cities might eventually give way to a new kind of naval warfare, one where speed, stealth, and automation rule the seas. For now, though, the aircraft carrier remains the ultimate symbol of naval power. And with new technology shaping the future of these warships, they are only going to become more advanced. But will the next generation of carriers be fully autonomous? Could AI and drones replace human pilots and crew entirely? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Would you serve on a high-tech AI-powered aircraft carrier? Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more military insights. Thanks for watching.